Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. I am in studio with Tony Finn at WagerTalk and Mr. Dave Cokin. You, of course, probably are following him already at Dave Cokin on Twitter. We're filming this on Wednesday. The first conference tournament tips off Monday, the Atlantic Sun, and then 3 more on Tuesday, and then I think 2 more on Wednesday. So about 40% are this week, and then the following 60% are the next week. Dave, tell us, you know, since we're doing this week, and these are basically the non-Power 5 conferences, let's talk about those in this video. How you handicap things different, if anything, compared to the Power 5 conferences, because basically you have to win to get in.
Right, and that really does alter things because in some of the bigger conferences, you might have teams that are already, they know they're going. And they can sometimes ease off a little bit because, you know, the conference tournament just isn't that important.
4 days and 4 games with a beat-up staff isn't what a lot of teams want to do. We've seen it in the Big Ten and the ACC.
Absolutely, have seen it. It's actually a smart move sometimes. You know what, get your team out of there and get them the extra rest. But in the smaller conferences, that's not the case. You look at the Ohio Valley Conference, they're going to get 1 team. Okay, and you've got a tremendous battle taking place there because you get
those top 4 are awesome.
There's 4 teams; they can all beat each other. One of the things I like to look for in the smaller conferences is who's going to have the crowd. Because if they're playing at neutral sites, and the Ohio Valley is a good example, that'll be a neutral site. If you can get an indication of the teams that are going to have the most representation there, that really got their fans to come, those teams have an additional 1 or 2 point advantage, in my opinion, because of the crowd factor. That can be in the major conferences too. I go back to the days when I used to go to the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden when I lived back east. And I'm telling you what, I mean, big crowds, everybody was really revved up about it, but if you could land on the team that had the biggest crowd, you probably were going to get a winning side. It meant a lot. So that's something I try and get a gauge on. And then beyond that, you've got to look at, to me, throwing out much of the early season and focusing on last 10 games or even last 5 games, power ratings, and trying to get some value there.
You know, Tony, one thing, you know, I want to bring up is that, you know, being from Cleveland and we used to have the Horizon and, you know, with Cleveland State there, the Horizon was one of the first conferences to give a huge advantage to a top 1 or 2 seed. They actually had a double bye. Yep. Well, now we see, I think there's 3 or 4 conferences where you're playing at home and you're playing with multiple days rest. So you don't have this 3 games in 3 day scenario. I think the AAC is broken out into 9 days. 3 days, 3 days off, 3 days off. So does that change anything the way you're handicapping these games? And what else do you want to add?
Well, it does change, but not so much as the teams that are on the double byes as much as the under. You spoke to the later tournaments, which are the Power 5 or Power 6 conferences. One of the first things I do is assess certain leagues play from a Saturday to a Monday. The Big 12 plays on Saturday, they play on Monday many times. And some leagues play Thursday to Saturday or Thursday to Sunday. And how these teams do with short rest, simply because of what you just outlined.
So you go through and you look at how a team did on the second day of the back-to-backs.
Absolutely. I take health into consideration, much like I said, when you're playing consecutive days. A lot of the training staffs can do a really good job with somebody who has a nagging injury and get them ready on a Saturday, and then they don't play again until Tuesday or Wednesday. This is every day coming. I also take motivation into a factor, and that is if a team, as you guys talked about, is already in and would rather have the rest. When I go into conference tournaments, I look at the underdogs.
But you got to know the coaching tendencies.
Absolutely, too.
Because a good example is obviously Gonzaga is going to be in the tournament.
Yeah, and then besides that, it's Buffalo.
Well, yeah,
and Nevada.
Just to focus on Gonzaga for a moment. But they don't take this. You have to know the coaching tendencies, and also here's where again the fan base comes into play. Now Gonzaga has nothing to play for, particularly in the WCC tournament that'll be held here at the Orleans in Las Vegas. But the whole crowd's going to be Gonzaga. Yeah. They sell out the place by themselves.
Yes,
I'm talking, you know, you've got, what, 8,000 in there, and 7,500 of them are Gonzaga, and the other 500 are whoever. So Gonzaga is one of those teams that will treat the conference tournament seriously because their fans are going to be screaming for them to win it. It's a big deal to them. It's a bigger deal to them than it is to probably Duke and the ACC. Great fan base, but it's more divided up among other schools, and it's not that big a deal to them. They might win the tournament anyway, but it's still not that big a deal. So you have to really break it down individually by how these teams are supported and how much they put in terms of stress on the tournament.
Do the Zags need to win the WCC to get the #1 seed?
I don't really give it. Do they really care about being a #1 seed? Is it that big a deal?
To other teams, I don't think. To them, I think it's a
know.
prestige thing.
Yeah, maybe. But
Location matters. I mean, I'm sure they would like to be the #1 in the West, Gonzaga, especially as you just described. Their fans travel pretty well, and they'd much rather be in the West.
Oh yeah. Well, but the thing is, they'll probably be in the West anyway.
Right? Probably.
Because the NCAA is not stupid. They know wherever they send Gonzaga, the place is going to be packed. Their fans are fantastic. I mean,
no one else is going to Montana or wherever that region
right,
is, right?
Yeah. So,
the Zags fans will.
Location, again, you guys talked about is a big deal. Let's use a Big 12 as an example. They play in the Sprint Center in Kansas City, 30 miles from Jayhawk land, and a team like Iowa State, which is that Sprint Center is called Hilton 2 for a reason. They travel so well that when those two teams play in the tournaments, they typically have success simply because of the crowds.
Great point. Great point. Guys, conference tournaments, the best time in all of sports. I'm going to go ahead and mention a special that I have. My March Madness package is going to be $169. That's from March 18th on. I'm going to give you the next 20 days for free. Rest of college hoops, $169. Why? Well, I've had a very uneven year with my top plays, my 5-star. I had a 5-star loser on South Carolina yesterday, but those other plays are cashing. I want you on board for all those games. Try it out. You're going to get a great experience. Almost 7 weeks for $169. WagerTalk, go to the Cal Sports page. It's available right on my homepage. No coupon needed. College hoops, guys. March Madness, the best time in all of sports.